What if I told you that the thing you fear most, the thing that keeps you awake at night, the thing that makes you compromise your values and accept less than you deserve, isn't actually dangerous at all? Being alone. Society has convinced you that solitude is punishment, that being by yourself means you're broken, that if you're not constantly surrounded by people, you've somehow failed at life. Machiavelli saw through this lie 500 years ago, and what he discovered will completely transform how you see strength, power, and what it actually means to be a man who can't be controlled. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the ability to be alone isn't just important. It's the foundation of every form of masculine power that exists. Or maybe you already know this truth deep down, but you've been fighting it, filling every silent moment with noise, every empty space with distraction, because facing yourself feels more terrifying than facing any external enemy. If that's you, what I'm about to reveal will either liberate you completely or make you extremely uncomfortable. Probably both. But first, let me paint you a picture that will make this crystal clear. Imagine two men facing the same situation. Michael gets a text from his girlfriend saying she needs space. Within seconds, his heart is racing. He immediately starts typing responses, deleting them, rewriting them. He calls his friends for advice. He scrolls through old photos. He checks her social media obsessively. He can't eat, he can't sleep. He's completely destabilized because the thought of being alone, even temporarily, feels like death itself. His entire sense of stability was built on her presence, and now that foundation is crumbling. Watch what happens to him over the next few days. He drunk texts at 2 in the morning. He shows up at places he knows she'll be. He asks mutual friends about her. He posts things on social media hoping she'll see them. He's lost in a spiral of desperation because he literally doesn't know how to exist without someone else validating his existence. Now picture David in the same situation. He reads the text. He feels the emotion, acknowledges it, processes it like a mature adult, and then he goes about his day. He hits the gym. He works on his business. He reads the book that's been sitting on his shelf. He thinks deeply about the relationship and what he actually wants. He's not pretending the relationship doesn't matter, but his ability to function, his sense of self, his internal stability, none of it depends on her being there. He's a complete human being whether she's in his life or not. Who has the power in these scenarios? Who do you think she respects more when she eventually reaches out? Hold that answer because we're going to go much deeper into why this dynamic exists and how you can transform yourself from Michael into David. Michael is terrified of being alone because he's never learned to be complete by himself. He jumps from relationship to relationship, friendship to friendship, distraction to distraction, situation to situation, because silence forces him to face the parts of himself he's been running from his entire life. The emptiness, the unfulfilled potential, the gap between who he is and who he knows he should be. That gap is painful to look at, so he fills every moment with external noise. David has done something most men never do. He spent real time alone. Not just physically alone in his apartment scrolling through his phone, truly alone with his thoughts, his fears, his failures, his authentic self without any performance or mask or distraction. And that experience, that willingness to face himself completely, gave him something Michael will never have until he faces the same test. Complete independence from external validation, unshakable self-knowledge, the kind of internal strength that can't be manipulated or controlled. This is what Machiavelli understood about power that modern society actively hides from you, that they desperately don't want you to figure out. The man who can't be alone can be controlled by anyone who offers him company. Think about what that means. Anyone who provides attention, validation, or distraction has power over him. He'll compromise his values to keep them around. He'll accept disrespect to avoid being alone. He'll tolerate behavior he knows is wrong, because the alternative, solitude, feels worse than the mistreatment. The man who's comfortable in solitude can't be manipulated, can't be pressured, can't be threatened with isolation, because isolation isn't a threat to him. It's just another state of being. Actually, it's often his preferred state because he's learned that his own company is better than bad company. Now I want to know something. What city are you watching this from right now? Drop your location in the comments because I'm genuinely curious. where men around the world are discovering these truths about solitude and strength. Are you in Los Angeles, Miami, London, Sydney, Toronto, Mexico City, Tokyo? Let me see how global this awakening really is. I want to know where the men who understand this are located. Here's what Machiavelli discovered about human nature that explains why being alone is actually the highest form of strength, why it's not a weakness, but the ultimate power move. Power isn't about controlling others. Real power is about being uncontrollable yourself. And you can't be uncontrollable when you're desperate for connection, when you need people around you to feel okay, when silence makes you anxious and solitude makes you depressed. You're a puppet, and anyone who notices your desperation can pull your strings. Think about every bad decision you've made in the last year. Seriously, stop and think about your worst choices. How many of them happened because you couldn't stand being alone? You stayed in a relationship that was clearly over, that was obviously toxic, that everyone around you told you to leave, because being single felt worse than being disrespected. You hung out with people you don't even like, people who drain your energy and waste your time, because an empty Friday night felt like failure. You said yes to things you wanted to say no to, because disappointing someone felt more painful than disappointing yourself. You compromised your boundaries, your standards, your self-respect, because enforcing them might have meant being alone. You took jobs you hated. You moved to cities you didn't want to live in. You changed your opinions to match the room. All of this comes from the same place. You've been conditioned to fear the one thing that would actually make you free: solitude, the ability to be completely alone and completely okay. Machiavelli wrote that the first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. But here's what nobody tells you about that quote, the deeper truth hidden inside it. Before you can choose quality people, you have to be willing to have nobody. You have to be comfortable with zero people around you so that when you do let someone in, it's because they add genuine value to your life, not because you're desperate to fill a void. Most men never reach this point in their entire lives. They collect people like insurance policies against loneliness. They maintain friendships that drain them because losing friends feels like losing status. They stay in relationships that diminish them because being single means starting over. They surround themselves with mediocrity because mediocre company feels better than their own company, and that reveals the deepest problem. They don't like themselves. If they did, they'd enjoy their own company, and that's the trap that keeps them weak forever. When you can't be alone, you can't be selective about who you let into your life. When you can't be selective, you end up surrounded by people who don't respect you, don't challenge you, don't add value to your existence. You become the average of 5 people you didn't even consciously choose. You just accepted whoever was willing to be around you because the alternative, being alone, was too frightening to consider. Machiavelli would tell you this is slavery. You've given other people power over you simply by being unable to sit with yourself. You're not free. You're controlled by your fear. Here's the uncomfortable question you need to ask yourself right now, and I want you to really sit with this. When was the last time you spent a full day completely alone? Not working. Not on your phone scrolling through content. Not watching movies or playing games. Actually alone with your thoughts. Just you, in silence, with nothing but your own mind for company. Can't remember? That's the problem right there. You don't even know who you are because you've never spent enough time with yourself to find out. You're a stranger to the person you should know best. You're living in your own mind, but you've done everything possible to avoid actually being present in it. Think about that for a second. You'll spend your entire life in your own head, decades and decades, but you've done everything possible to avoid actually being there. You've filled every quiet moment with podcasts, music, scrolling, anything to avoid the silence where you might have to confront yourself, where you might have to face the uncomfortable truths you've been running from. Machiavelli understood that most people are cowards, not because they're afraid of external threats like physical danger or confrontation, but because they're terrified of internal truth. Being alone forces you to face things you've been running from your entire life. The dreams you've abandoned because they seemed too difficult. The potential you've wasted because you took the easy path. The person you've become versus the person you know you should be. That confrontation is painful. It's much easier to stay distracted, stay busy, stay surrounded by people who let you avoid the real work of becoming someone worth being, someone you'd actually respect if you met yourself. But here's what happens when you finally face that fear, when you stop running and turn around to confront what's been chasing you. When you spend real time alone, something remarkable occurs that most men never experience in their entire lives. You start to separate who you actually are from who you've been performing to be. All the opinions you hold because other people hold them, they fall away. All the behaviors you maintain because they make you fit in, they become irrelevant. All the goals you're chasing because society says you should chase them, they get questioned. In solitude, there's no audience to perform for. There's no one to impress. There's no social pressure to be anyone other than yourself. And in that space, that uncomfortable but liberating space, you discover your authentic preferences, your real values, your genuine desires, not what you think you should want, not what would look good on social media, what you actually want. This is why Machiavelli spent years in exile, alone, removed from the political power he once wielded, studying history and human nature in isolation. That solitude wasn't punishment, though it probably felt like it at first. It was purification. It burned away everything false and left only what was real. He wrote The Prince during that isolation. Think about the significance of that. His most influential work, the book that would influence leaders for 5 centuries, came not from being surrounded by power, but from being completely removed from it. The same pattern repeats throughout history if you pay attention. The strongest ideas, the deepest insights, the most transformative realizations, they don't come from networking events or social gatherings or group brainstorming sessions. They come from solitude, from minds that have spent enough time alone to think deeply, rather than just react quickly to whatever's in front of them. But modern society has declared war on solitude because solitary men are dangerous to systems that require compliance and conformity. If you're comfortable being alone, you can't be manipulated with social pressure. If you don't need approval, you can't be controlled with the threat of rejection or exclusion. If you're complete by yourself, you don't need what they're selling, whether that's products or ideologies or lifestyles. This is why you're bombarded constantly with messages that being alone is sad, that isolation is unhealthy, that you need to be constantly connected and available and responsive. They're not trying to help you. They're trying to keep you dependent, keep you weak, keep you controllable. Machiavelli wrote that everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. But how can you know what you really are if you've never spent time discovering it? You can't. You're just a collection of other people's expectations and society's programming, walking around pretending to be a person. Here's what happens when you develop the ability to be truly alone, when you transform solitude from something you fear into something you value. First, your standards skyrocket immediately. When you're comfortable by yourself, you stop accepting mediocre people just to avoid being alone. You'd genuinely rather be alone than poorly accompanied. That single shift transforms your entire life because it affects every relationship, every friendship, every interaction. Second, you become unmanipulable. People try to control you with social pressure, with threats of exclusion, with implied rejection. None of it works anymore because you're genuinely fine either way. They can't threaten you with something that doesn't threaten you. Third, your decision-making improves dramatically because you're not making choices to impress people or avoid judgment. You're making choices based on your actual values and long-term interests. Fourth, you develop real self-knowledge, not the surface-level stuff. You understand your patterns, your triggers, your strengths, your weaknesses. Not the version you present to others, but the reality you can only see in solitude. Fifth, you build genuine confidence, not the fake confidence that comes from external validation, but the unshakable confidence that comes from knowing you can handle anything, because you've proven you can handle yourself. Machiavelli believed that there is no other way to guard yourself against flattery than by making men understand that telling you the truth will not offend you. But you can only handle truth when you've spent enough time alone to become honest with yourself. If you can't be honest in solitude, you won't be honest anywhere else. Now let me show you the critical difference between isolation and chosen solitude, because this is where most men get confused and make excuses. Isolation is forced. It's what happens when people reject you, when you have no options, when you're alone because nobody wants you around. That's not strength. That's just circumstance. That's loneliness. Chosen solitude is completely different and infinitely more powerful. It's when you have options, when people want your time and attention, but you consciously choose to be alone because you value that time more than their company. That's real power. The man who's isolated wishes he had people around him. He's checking his phone hoping for messages. He's desperate for invitations. The man who chooses solitude turns down invitations because he's building something more important than a social calendar. He's working on himself. One is running from rejection. The other is running toward purpose. Machiavelli spent his career observing the difference between men who held power and men who lost it, and he noticed something crucial that changed his entire understanding of leadership. The men who couldn't be alone couldn't be trusted with power, because their need for approval made them weak. They made decisions to be liked rather than to be effective. They compromised their principles to maintain popularity. They were slaves to public opinion, constantly checking which way the wind was blowing before taking a position. But the men who were comfortable in solitude, they made hard decisions without losing sleep. They enforced unpopular policies that were necessary. They stood by their principles even when everyone disagreed. Why? Because their sense of self didn't depend on approval. They'd spent enough time alone to know who they were, and that knowledge made them immovable. Think about your own life right now, today. How many decisions are you making to avoid being alone? Be brutally honest. You're staying in a job you hate because your coworkers are your social life. You're in a relationship that's going nowhere because being single feels like starting over. You're maintaining friendships that drain your energy because the alternative is having fewer people to text. All of this is cowardice disguised as connection. You're choosing comfort over growth, distraction over development, company over character. And Machiavelli would tell you that every single day you avoid solitude is a day you remain weak, a day you stay controllable. Here's what nobody tells you about building the ability to be alone. It's a skill, not a personality trait. You're not born comfortable with solitude. You develop it through intentional practice. Start small. Spend an hour alone with no distractions, no phone, no music, no content, just you and your thoughts. It will be uncomfortable. Your mind will race. You'll want to reach for your phone within minutes. That discomfort is exactly what you need to face because that's where the growth happens. Do this regularly and something shifts. The anxiety decreases. The thoughts slow down. You start to actually enjoy your own company, then extend it. A half day, a full day, a weekend. Each level reveals new layers of yourself that you didn't know existed. You'll discover things you've been suppressing, dreams you abandoned, resentments you've been carrying, truths you've been avoiding. This is the real work that most men never do. They spend their entire lives running from themselves and then wonder why they feel empty despite being constantly surrounded by people. The answer is obvious. You can't run from yourself forever. Machiavelli wrote that the wise man does at once what the fool does finally. The fool spends decades avoiding solitude, suffers all the consequences of never knowing himself, and eventually, if life beats him down hard enough, learns that being alone is where strength is forged. The wise man learns this immediately and builds his entire life on that foundation from the beginning. So which one are you? Are you going to be the fool or the wise man? Here's what your life actually looks like when you've mastered the ability to be alone, when solitude has become your foundation rather than your fear. You wake up, and you don't immediately check your phone for validation from people who probably don't even care. You're content in the silence of your own mind. You go through your day, and you don't need constant communication to feel connected to the world. You're already connected to yourself, which is the only connection that actually matters. You make plans based on what you actually want to do, not on avoiding empty time that scares you. You're not afraid of having nothing scheduled because you know that unstructured time is where creativity and insight happen. You evaluate every relationship and friendship honestly without the fog of desperation. Do they add value or just fill space? You're willing to let go of anyone who doesn't genuinely enhance your life. You set boundaries without guilt because you know your time is valuable. You say no without explanation because you don't owe anyone access to you. You prioritize your time ruthlessly because you understand it's the only resource you can never get back. You pursue your purpose with laser focus because you're not constantly distracted by social obligations that don't serve you. You're building something real instead of maintaining appearances. And when you do connect with people, it's from a place of abundance rather than need. You're choosing to share your time, not desperately seeking to fill a void. This is the highest form of strength Machiavelli was describing. Not the ability to dominate others, but the ability to be completely self-sufficient. Not the power to control people, but the power to be uncontrollable yourself. And it all starts with being comfortable alone. If this video made you realize that your fear of being alone has been controlling your entire life, making your decisions, limiting your potential, I need you to do something right now. Drop this exact phrase in the comments. I choose solitude over weak company. I want to see how many men are ready to prioritize themselves over social approval. Type it out and mean it, because that statement is a declaration of independence from everyone who's had power over you, simply because you were afraid to be alone. After you comment that, smash the subscribe button because this channel is for men who are building real strength, not performing fake confidence for social media. We're creating a community of men who understand that true power comes from self-mastery, not social status, from internal strength rather than external validation. And here's what's coming in the next video. We're going deeper into something even more controversial, something the system really doesn't want you to understand, something about purpose, about sacrifice, about why the comfortable life that society promises you is actually the path to becoming a weak, dependent man who serves other people's interests instead of building his own empire. You're going to want to see what's coming next.